world because the rest of the world does their dates differently. Okay, so once again, we've been focusing on the, I didn't phrase it. We've been focusing on the atmosphere and the hydrosphere. The one that I heard that was mentioned, they mean the same thing. Geosphere is specifically Earth's surface, but the lithosphere is any planet's surface, all the way down to its core. It just depends. Depends on exactly what you're talking about. But they're both of those are interchangeable for our planet. We are going to talk about all of them as a whole. I took a look at my sheets, and I am going to go into weather next. It does actually fit into this. Now, y'all, next week is messed up. You guys have no school Monday. We are here. You guys are not. Yeah. And then Wednesday is PSAT. Okay. Now, seniors are supposed to be remote from home. Seniors aren't even supposed to come here. I don't think at all. I don't think. That's what I just asked them, and they said that seniors are supposed to be remote.
Yeah, seniors are supposed to come.
But they're not, because through like 2 o'clock, it's all testing and lunches.
So it doesn't matter for us if you show up or not.
You're supposed to be checking in remotely. But the thing is I have to give the test, and I'm not allowed to have a phone or a computer or anything on, so it's not like I can check.
I feel like also service.
My teacher said that you're always supposed to have an assignment in Canvas that we could do on our own at home.
Yeah.
We were not informed that when I just went to the meeting in third period. They did not tell us anything about that.
You just put notes on there, right? Notes. And then a remote check-in thing that you can ask for some labor, you can do that. And
I'll figure it out at lunch. When I go to lunch after this, I'll ask the other science people what they plan on doing, because we're all in the same boat. And so the Earth has 5 major spheres. They are all the same size as our planet. The one that's slightly larger than our planet is the atmosphere, because the atmosphere extends partway off the surface of the planet into eventually what turns into space. They do depend on each other. The most sensitive of all of the spheres is what we belong to, which is the biosphere. Living organisms are the most delicate part of Earth's biomes. It does not take much to wipe us out. Probably the sturdiest of all of the spheres would be the lithosphere, the Earth itself. Not the living part. Well, technically the Earth is almost alive. Not the plants and animals, but like the rocks and the mantle and then the core, that part. That's probably the sturdiest of all the spheres, yes.
Somebody 1, 2.
This is, I don't even have it in front of me. Let me see. Because I don't remember them. Well, I didn't. Yes, this is the first one, and this is the second one. I'll list off all the 5 different spheres in just a second. I just have a problem with it. Where did I put my And hopefully I'll have enough time to take a look at the grade book and let people know, especially if you're absent, where you're standing. You know what? I'll just take attendance. I'll be smart. I didn't see Christian, I didn't see Bolton, I didn't see Jared. So, still need another minute. Wait, I'm gonna check, I'm gonna freeze it then, I'm gonna check, see if anybody else came online. And yes, people did come online. All right, so let's see, Christian. Oh, let's see, Christian. And is Logan on? Let's see. Where's Christian? Does anybody need another minute now, or can we go forward? I wanna give you enough time to be able to work on the assignment. I also wanna be able to go over your grades. If, now, like I said, some of them are a little sturdier in relationship to others. Ours is the most fickle of all of the biomes. But if part of the system is actually removed, okay, not damaged, but removed, it's going to drastically affect all of the other biomes, and it could potentially make sense. I haven't gotten to that yet. I'll get to that in just a second, actually listing them out. You don't have this gear image, this just helps you have a different perspective on how these things work. So let's say this is the biosphere, the life. And obviously we would be affected by the atmosphere and the hydrosphere. We ought to be able to breathe. And let's say that we removed a major process of life. Okay, so let's take away photosynthesis. What's going to happen to life on the surface of our planet?
The plants will die.
Everything will die. The surface of our planet will die without photosynthesis. Now, there is possible chemosynthesis that may exist, definitely at the bottom of the ocean. But if you actually remove a major portion, all of the other gears stop turning. It's the same concept. Like I said, some of the other spheres they can withstand a little bit more than we can. We're really, really, really delicate organisms. If you drastically change the temperature here, we're going to have a hard time surviving. If you change the composition of the atmosphere, we're going to have a hard time surviving.
Yeah.
If the Earth has Yellowstone's volcano finally decide to blow its top, we're going to have a hard time surviving because we're going to have nuclear winter. If we get hit with another asteroid, same general concept's going to happen as that volcano. Photosynthesis is going to have a hard time keeping on going. There's 5 spheres. Okay, so in English, they're the rocks, parts lock on, the dirt, and then everything down to the core. Okay, there's the water sphere. It's not their technical names, it's just regular English. There's the air that we breathe, there's that sphere. That's the one we've been talking about the most. There's the ice sphere, and then there's life. Okay, so with their proper terms, and then like I said, each one is the size of the planet. The atmosphere technically is a tiny bit bigger than the planet. Really, it's just from the surface of the planet out to space. But there are 5 of them. Geosphere is specifically the Earth. And really, it should be called the lithosphere. That's the more technical term, but geosphere will work. It's the land, it's the crust, and it's everything down to the core. So not the plants, the surface down into the sun. We talked about its early formation at the beginning of this unit. We had to because that was the beginning of understanding the atmosphere of early Earth. Remember that first atmosphere was almost instantly gone? The first thick atmosphere was created by the volcanoes with outgassing. That would have killed us, but the bacteria loved it. We needed the oxygen. Well, I'm listing the 5 spheres, and then we're going to talk about each one individually. The hydrosphere is the liquid water portion, which most of the surface of our planet is covered in water. Like most of our bodies are made up of water. The part that we breathe, the atmosphere, we live in the troposphere. That's where our weather is. That's where we're going to be focusing for the next minute. We need to learn about weather, how fronts interact. Like the hurricane, that's poor Louisiana, y'all. I haven't even looked since this morning. What's it doing now? Is it still a category 4? It's about to slam into Cancun if it hasn't done it already. What?
It says on the hydrosphere, which is the liquid water, it says
I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't gotten there yet. Let's look and see what's going on with this delta. I'm so sorry for using that. It's really good. Then we have now the cryosphere is the frozen part. That most of our fresh water is locked in ice. See what it says. Well, it's not telling me category numbers. It's at least going to be a category 3. Let's talk about
10 hurricanes this year?
I have to look and see how many. Now, named storms include the tropical depressions and the storms. The actual hurricane status, I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back and look. We've had a lot. We've had like 25 major systems, and like the average is 12. It's been a really intense year for the coast. Then there's the part, the average number of major storms, not necessarily hurricanes, but major storms and named storms is 12. We've had 25 or 26 this season. It's been really bad. Biosphere, all the living things, everything from bacteria. Viruses do not count. Viruses are not alive. They're close, but they're not alive. Everything from bacteria up to megafauna and flora. So trees would be the megaflora. Megafauna would be like us, big animals. But yes, bacteria, oh, I just got Germans on that. Do that. We have focused here. We will come back in the 4th or 5th, 6 weeks and talk about their interaction in depth. We talked a little bit about this one. We're going to continue on with the atmosphere, and then we're going to start going into the geosphere, the formation of our current crust, the different layers, how sediment forms, the fact that it takes 100 years to make 1 inch of dirt. Desert? The way I learned this is stupid. Like dessert, you want more, so it has 2 S's. Desert, you don't, it has 1. That is how I was taught that when I was a kid. So desert has 1 S. Earth. No. The system science for Earth is the interaction of these 5 spheres with the exosphere. Y'all, the exosphere is the beginning of space and out. You do not have this image. This little dot in the middle is Earth. The blue sphere around it is the exosphere. That's how far out it reaches. Now, this weird looking, there's a little bubble over here. I know it's hard to see. There's like a little portion right here, and then there's a bigger portion that's spread out behind us. That is our magnetosphere. What this is showing is pretend the sun is way out here on the left-hand side. And it's blasting its radiation 360 degrees at everything that's in our solar system. Well, this is the portion that's coming straight for us. Our thermosphere, the outer part of the thermosphere, the exosphere, with the help of the magnetosphere, creates what's called bow shock. And it forces most of that nasty solar wind around our force field, which is called our magnetosphere. If it was not for our magnetosphere, we would be fried by the sun. So over here, it's showing you that your gamma rays and your X-rays are being absorbed by the upper levels of the exosphere. Closer to the Earth, we've got absorption of UV in the stratosphere. Most of it does get reflected around us. Now, eventually, we're either going to get hit by a Walker with an X flare, or we're going to get hit with enough X, M, and C flares in rapid succession that it's going to strip our magnetosphere away. Magnetic north will become magnetic south. The planet is not flipping, but the magnetic north will be instantly transformed, I hope instantly, transform the magnetic south and vice versa. Now, all of our computers and like magnets and cell phones, they won't work. But if it's a fast enough pole reversal, the Earth shouldn't incinerate at the surface. If it's a slow enough pole reversal, we are exposed to all of the radiation of the sun until the magnetosphere actually fixes itself. And it's like reboot. It's like a software reboot for a planet. We're supposed to be having another pole shift. The last one was about 650,000 years ago. We are due for a new one. That ironically was about the same time that Yellowstone went balloon the last time.
Oh, this week.
Now if Yellowstone goes, we're in big trouble. The whole planet is in big trouble. Because well, first of all, the mouth of the volcano has 4 states that are in it. So it's gonna put up it's huge, it's gonna put up a massive amount of volcanic ash, and it's going to settle in the stratosphere, not where we are, where the ozone stuff is, and it's gonna black out the sun. So we're not going to have photosynthesis for a while. It's called nuclear winter, when that big one goes.
Think we'll be alive for it?
I hope not.
If we are, it's gonna be a little bit.
It's going to be horrible. It will. Now, if you're close enough, you're just gonna die instantly. If you're in the blast radius, you're dead.
What do you think about?
We're not inside the kill zone down here. We're outside of the kill zone, but we're in the ash room. Besides, the jet stream things bring it straight to us. Right down the middle of the United States. We're gonna talk about the geosphere. The geosphere or lithosphere, which is the more proper way to say this, but they're both acceptable. Not the plants. It's the dirt, it's the sand, it's the rocks, it's the magma underneath all of that, it's the solid and the molten iron core. It's the earth itself minus the life. And the water, and the air. You have all different kinds of extremes on Earth's surface. There are some areas that are extremely cold, there are some areas that are extremely hot. There are some that have summer nonstop. It's called the equator. We have seasons. Well, not so much in Texas. It's really hot and then not so hot. Every now and then we get a few cold days thrown in. That's not true when you're up in the Panhandle. Up towards Amarillo, it gets cold up there. This is somewhere in the desert, and you can tell by the cactus that's in the picture, which is probably Arizona. Arizona has lots of red dirt and all the clay. And we talked about the early formation of our Earth at the beginning of this unit. I am building those questions into the test. I'm just not finished building the test yet. The hydrosphere is the liquid portion of Earth. The oceans, the lakes, the rivers, creeks, tributaries, the bays, all of them. Almost all of the liquid water on Earth is salt. Only 3% of the liquid water on Earth is fresh. And of that, 70% of your fresh water is locked in ice. We have very little fresh water that's available on the planet compared to all of the water that's on the planet. Frozen?
The fresh water doing water.
It'd be fresh, yeah, if you drink salt water, you're gonna die. If you drink too much of it, you'll dehydrate and you'll die.
So is frozen water count? Is that the?
Frozen water is in its own sphere, it's called the cryosphere. The cryosphere would be glaciers, would be icebergs, would be pancake ice flows, ice caps. Anything that's frozen, and that technically doesn't count as the hydrosphere because you can't get it out, it's locked in ice. Can't remember if I put another bullet on this one or not. Yes, there is. Frozen water makes up 70% of the fresh water. So, of all the water that's loose, and really all of the water in general, only 3% is fresh. And of that 3%, only 30% of it is actually in the liquid state that's available for us. Now, we can change salt water to fresh water. That's how Florida gets its water on the coast. They have what are called desalination plants, and it literally takes up seawater, and it removes the salt, and it pumps out fresh water. That's how they get their water. Inland is not so much that way, but the coastal cities, that's how they do it. We will come back and do more on the hydrosphere. Here's my graph. Let me see if anybody else came online. Let's see, are they on? No. You ready? No. Atmosphere, we're still working on the atmosphere. We will get into weather. I will teach you how to read weather station models. Will be frontal interactions, hurricanes, tornadoes, all that fun stuff. It's just going to take me a little while to get through it. I really only have 3 days with you next week. And it's going to take a lot longer than 3 days to do the unit on weather. Now, compared to like the center of the Earth to the surface is about 4,000 miles thick. The atmosphere compared to that is not really all that thick, and the air is thicker the closer towards the Earth. Remember, where we breathe, where most of the concentrated air is in what is called the troposphere. That is where we live. That's where we have weather. That's what we will be talking about next week. Now, the very outer layer, the exosphere, even though it's a very thin part of the atmosphere, it takes the brunt of the gamma and the X-rays. The mesosphere is one that burns up the meteors. The stratosphere is the one that blocks the bulk of the UV radiation through ozone. Some UV comes through, and then everything that's not dangerous, visible light, radio waves, microwaves, and infrared. Those are all of the other parts of the spectrum. They make it down to the surface of the Earth.
I would be complicated for
You do?
it.
Okay. Is your Chromebook broken?
I don't know what's wrong with it, but sometimes I.
Okay.
I'm suspicious this, I wouldn't,
Sounds suspicious?
I don't know.
Maybe not hit you in the mouth.
No, let's not hit each other in the mouth. Let me go back. Okay.
So,
I was gonna say, you're leaving,
um,
is that not projection making that hissing noise? Stop.
no,
Hey,
it's
great.
true. It's not true.
It's facts.
It's better.
Stop.
Yeah, okay.
All right, biosphere, this is the living portion. We fall here. Everything from bacteria up through the tallest of the trees, the sequoias, the largest of the plants, animals, elephants, giraffes, people, fish, hamsters. It goes all the way to the bottom of the ocean floor. There is life at the very bottom of the ocean. It starts with chemosynthetic bacteria that feed off of sulfur. And then there's other things that eat that bacteria. There are no plants down there. The bacteria is the plant down there. That's the beginning of the food chain. There's shrimp, crabs, fish, tube worms, all the kinds of stuff that lives down there. You come up closer, still in the ocean. You come up enough, you come to where the light can actually penetrate, and you get things like seaweed and algae, sharks, whales, all the fish that we eat. And then on land, it's everything up through a couple miles up in elevation. You do get to a point where there is no growing plants. They call that the tree line. It's basically frozen everywhere up above that. The air is thin. It's not thick enough to be able to support plant or animal life. That's why people have to have the oxygen tanks when they climb Mount Everest. There's like 300 bodies that are up there on Everest because when people die, they leave them behind. They're not going to spend their energy and their precious resources bringing back somebody that's died. But they're frozen. They're mummified. You go climb Mount Everest, I'm sure you'll see at least one dead body. It's just not, like, it's frozen solid. And life is the most sensitive of the spheres. The biosphere is the most fickle. It does not take much to ruin something that is living. The most delicate of all of them. And then we got to talk about the cryosphere. And then the question, what happens if all the ice melts? It would not be good for us at all. Well, we wouldn't drown here, but our weather would be all messed up. Houston would be underwater. Florida would be completely and totally gone. No Florida.
Florida, County too, right?
Huh?
The whole West Coast?
No. You would get an inner bay with California. You would get a lot of, like, Seattle would be underwater. I'll show you a little video that will show you how high the water, like how many cities would be destroyed.
Like, them saying that melting in the polar ice caps is lowering the sea level is stupid.
It's not lowering the sea level, it's raising the sea level.
Okay.
Correct. Now, there's a tipping point where there's too much water added to the ocean where it destroys the Gulf Stream. Like, if you've seen Finding Nemo and the turtles are swimming in the,
Yeah.
it'll mess that up. It'll change where it goes, if not completely destroy it, and their weather is all kinds of out of whack. Because the Gulf Stream is actually what controls the way that winds go. It's called the Coriolis effect. We'll get to that later on, next semester. That's not in this section. It's much later on. Cryosphere is everything that's frozen, so glaciers, icebergs, pancake ice, ice floes, ice caps, anything that's frozen. And it's 70% of all of the fresh water is locked in ice.
I don't need water bottles.
How do you get water bottles? You fill them with that 30% that's left over, that's fresh water. Like I said, only 3% of all of the water on Earth is fresh. And of that 3%, only 30% is in the liquid state. 70% of it's locked in ice. One more slide and then we'll take a look at that video. We'll double check and see who has issues, especially if you're absent.
So 70% of water is the water, and then what's fresh water?
70% is frozen, 30% is the liquid fresh. Most of the water on Earth is salt. Most of the fresh water is locked in ice. Okay, so what happens if we melt all of ice, all of the glaciers, all of the ice, all of everything? We make it liquid. The water, the sea level, would rise somewhere around 230 to 250 feet from where it is now. All of your coastal cities will be underwater. Unfortunately, the largest percentage of human population lives within a few miles of the coast. Yes.
They won't die, right? They just go up slowly.
How long it would take for them all, I don't know, it depends. What has occurred in order to melt the ice? If it's a natural, slower process, then yeah, people aren't just gonna stand there and drown, like they're going to start moving away from the coast. If it happens extremely quickly, they're going to drown. We're just over 700 feet above sea level here, give or take. So this area is not gonna drown, except for the fact that our weather is going to be all kinds of messed up. Most likely what will happen is it will trigger another snowball Earth, which is a massive ice age. The last ice age we had started in the 1300s and it ended in the late 1800s. It was called a mini ice age. The fingers of the glacier, if you will, came down through Germany, but not quite to Italy and, Spain and France, which is why they drink wine and the Germans drink beer. Because barley and hops they're cold plants. They can survive cold weather, but grapes can't. They're warm plants. Like I said, that ice age just ended in like 1860. It was not that long ago. It was just a little one. It wasn't a cataclysmic one. I'm going to freeze this. I am going to double check something online. Sure. Gotta put that over there. All right, let's check online. I'm gonna stop the presentation too.